Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are finally previewing the theme for the month of August in my themed Letterboxd 4 series, which is coming of age films. Now these preview videos, I like to usually put them at the beginning of the month. It could not be closer to the end of the month of August, so I do apologize for this being out so late. If you saw my last video, you saw that I was sick for a couple weeks, and so that really just kind of delayed all my the schedule for when I was getting these videos uploaded. So this came way later than I intended to, but don't worry, I already have been watching the majority of these films pretty much already, and so I'm well into the journey of the coming of age films. And I also am going to push the results video a couple weeks into September as well, or like a week or so into September. So it'll give me more time to get a complete list, so that way we're not doing that video and I've watched 4 films. So it is late, but don't worry, I have already been watching a bunch of these. So if you're new to this series, basically all this is just that every single month I'm taking a different theme and figuring out what my Letterboxd 4 within that theme is. Now at the beginning of the month, supposed to be the beginning of the month, this preview video, I give you what's currently in my Letterboxd 4, and then give some alternative films that I'm going to see as well, that are some that I've already seen, some that I haven't seen before, and I'll just watch at least guaranteed those 10 films, plus as many others as I can get to in this month to determine what my true Letterboxd 4 is of that theme. Now before we get into like the actual Letterboxd 4, I do want to get into kind of like the rules and the exclusions. Now the rules, coming of age is a tough genre to pin down exactly. There's a lot of films that, there's some that just scream, like, it's a coming of age film. And then there's some that when you think about, like, what makes a coming of age film a coming of age film, you kind of look at it and you think, oh, maybe this film does fit in this category. And so there's a couple here and there that I kind of was iffy on whether I was going to include or not. And so the other rule that I kind of put into it is that I want it to be where the main character, or at least, the main supporting character, if, in certain films, one of the primary characters has to be an adolescent that is going through life lessons, that is learning and is growing and becoming, a different person from the beginning of the film to the end. That's, essentially kind of the definition, or at least how I view a coming of age film. And it doesn't even necessarily have to, I guess coming of age can be a little bit older, but it's typically just kind of the high school age. That is the age for your typical coming of age film. Now, so those are the kind of the brief rules. The exclusions, there's really 4 films that are already kind of excluded that aren't going to be here, and that is because in this series, once a film has been nominated in a previous month, it's ineligible going forward, because I want to get 48 different films, by the end of the month, or by the end of the year. And so the films that have already been used in previous Letterboxd 4s that are excluded are Moonlight, Love and Basketball, Booksmart, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And so without further ado, let's take a look at the current Letterboxd 4, Dee Dee, The Holdovers, Lady Bird, and Little Women. Now for me, it's a good thing that I didn't implement. I've done this in the past where I put some restrictions in there, like in the superhero genre, I did only one film per superhero. And then in like I think it was the Black History Month video where I kind of limited it to 1 film per director because, I wanted to just celebrate a whole bunch of filmmakers. I'm not implementing that rule here, which works out for me because I can put my 2 favorite Greta Gerwig films in here, Lady Bird and Little Women. And then The Holdovers was a film that I absolutely loved when it came out a couple years ago, and I've rewatched it a couple times since, and I think every single time I rewatch it, I love it more and more. That's one that I was kind of a little hesitant at first including because I had the rule that it had to be the main character as the adolescent, and in that Tully he's pretty main, but obviously he's not Paul Giamatti. He's not the main character of the film, but he's heavily involved, and so I decided that it counted. And then Dee Dee is like the quintessential coming of age film. Like that is absolutely by definition what a coming of age film is. Dee Dee was my favorite film of last year, and so just any excuse to rewatch that film, I look forward to doing that. Now let's take a look at the 3 contenders. These are 3 films that I have seen, but maybe it's been a little while, and so I don't know necessarily if they quite crack into that Letterboxd 4. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. 8th Grade. and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I've mentioned both Into the Spider-Verse and now Across the Spider-Verse in this video, and those were another ones that initially I didn't think of them necessarily as coming-of-age films, but that's absolutely what they are, especially Across the Spider-Verse. Into the Spider-Verse is maybe a little bit more so about, like, Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man and learning what it means to be Spider-Man. And then, but Across the Spider-Verse is the one where I think, like, Miles and Gwen, like, they're learning what it means to be Miles and Gwen. Like, that is a big part of their character arcs and their journey and who they are, beyond just the superhero. And so I think, those, when I thought about them a little bit more, at first I kind of was dismissing them, but then I thought about them and I'm like, no, those are definitely coming-of-age films. And so those have those spots. Eighth Grade, absolutely. Like, that's another one where it's just like the definition of a coming of age film, and it's been years since I've seen that. Really excited to get into that, and hopefully in that it's going to reinvigorate my desire to see Bo Burnham back behind directing more films, because he did such a phenomenal job in eighth grade directing that film. And then Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I had an absolute blast with this a couple years ago. It's I'm drawing a blank on her name off the top of my head. Is it Abby Ryder Fortson? I probably butchered her name, but she's incredible in it. Rachel McAdams is incredible. The Safdie brother, I think it's Benny, but I'm probably wrong. Just great. Kathy Bates is incredible in it. So that was a film that I had an absolute blast a couple of years ago. Seeing that, I haven't rewatched it since then, so I'm really excited to see a rewatch of that. And then 3 films that I haven't seen: The 400 Blows, The Breakfast Club, and Stand By Me. Now, The 400 Blows and Stand By Me, I've heard of them. Like, I've heard of the names. I don't know anything about either of those films, but I put them on here because, when I just look on Letterboxd, I look at people's lists and look up, best coming-of-age films. They're on pretty much everyone's list, and they're, like, really high up if they happen to rank it, or if I'm just searching through the list by like overall scores. Like, they're very highly regarded. A lot of people love those films, so I'm super excited to check those out. And then The Breakfast Club is another one that I honestly don't necessarily know a whole ton about. The Breakfast Club, I kind of know the general idea, like it's a high school, it's a group of kids. I think it's like all in one day, something like that. But I don't really know much of the plot besides that, but I know it's a classic film and like a lot of people have seen it. And it's one of those that, like, I should have probably have seen it by now. It's like kind of a blind spot on your film watching resume, And so I'm super excited to see that. This is probably the most blind I'm going into in any of the previous videos, the previous themes I've done, in terms of those 3 that I haven't seen. It feels like this is the most blind that I'm going into them, where I just don't really know a whole ton about the films. And so I'm really excited to see how this turns out. And as always, these are just the 10 films that I'm guaranteeing that I'm going to see this month, but I always want to watch as many more as I possibly can, so make sure in the comments down below to just put your favorite coming-of-age films down there below, and I'll try and get to as many of those as I can as well. And that's it. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of these 10 films that I just talked about, and again, just make sure to leave your suggestions, your favorite coming-of-age films of all time. Leave those down below in the comments. I'll get to as many of them as I can. And if you'd like to like this video and then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future episodes in this series or any of the other series I have going on my channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.